Oh, welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host. Today's discussion is a really quick video, which is a typical life cycle of a narcissistic, abusive relationship, which also extends to the other cluster Bs. Now, we've covered many of these steps, but this is just a typical example which has been compiled from my own wonderful experience with these creatures because so many of their tactics overlap. So they'll be condensed into one. However, the typical scenario is if you've been hooked in by one of them, you are somehow a magnet for more. So let's say you have a horrifying experience with one, and you go through all the devastation, and it ends, and it's over. Well, that leaves you weakened. Well, that makes you prime target for another one of these monsters. So one of them may pursue you and move in quickly to try to get you, and it can be a typical situation for one who's already been through such a situation to be kind of cautious. Like, thanks for telling me how beautiful I am, but I don't really want to get close to anybody, which is a common reaction to a previous situation with one. Well, these new people will just move right in to tell you, oh, I understand exactly what you're feeling. And if you make the mistake of revealing what happened to you and what you went through, you'll be greeted with, oh, I would never do that. I know exactly how that is. I have had that happen. The funny thing you seem to not question is, really, if this person has encountered this very same scenario, why is it they're so quick to try to yank you into their labyrinth? Because you'd think if they understood exactly what you're going through and they've been through it all, they would be a little cautious themselves. However, you find these people claiming that, oh, I've got it all down, I'm ready, I'm strong, I'll take as long as it takes for you to be ready, but I want to marry you now, even though we met yesterday, and it's sickening. However, they disguise all this with the flattery, with the compliments, with the gifts, with the attention, with the constant text messages day and night, all day, all night. It's easy to get lost in this thing, and if you dare to say, this feels kind of like the way the last one did, you will be shot down and told, I am nothing like anyone you've ever known. I'm perfect for you, and so on. That was my question, though. I would think, well, if you know how horrifying this can be, why would you be so quick to think I'm the one for you? I mean, we just met. You'd think they'd be cautious, but clearly that's not the case. They're trying to send the message to you that they're strong. Yes, in the past they've gone through what you did, but and they're going to help you, and that's tempting to want to believe if you've been through such crap. However, you'll notice in this typical cycle, they seem a little too good to be true. They seem to spend a little too much time on you. They tend to pay a little bit too much attention to you, considering you just met. And if you reach the point where you question and say, why are you being so nice to me? They're going to use your prior abuse against you by saying, honey, you're thinking about your exes who treated you wrong. This is just who I am. I'm a nice person. And you'll want to believe it, but there'll be that little thing in your brain telling you that this is phony. But if you dare say you're phony, you'll be told, oh, this is silly. You need to realize I'm here to help you. Which is typical with these cycles because they love to chase after the wounded bird, which you are, if you survived a previous monster. So, because they're cowards, they will chase after you. You're like prime target because A, you've already been through the abuse, B, you're weakened, and C, they're cowards. Like in the woods, the predator, there'll be a fox out in the woods that wants to attack a bird, and it sees this soaring eagle that flies and zips around, and it gets into a strategic pose and plans its move and gets it and eats it. Well, that's skill. But the narcissist slash cluster B is more like the cowardly predator who scans the area for a bird that got hurt and has a broken leg and can barely fly, and it pounces down on that. Well, that would be you it's pouncing down on. But of course it won't tell you this. But let's just say you go along with it. After all, you've been through this horrible abuse previously, and it's kind of nice to hear somebody being nice to you, being friendly and overly friendly, even though it seems over the top. But you think, well, how can I complain about being complimented and treated nice? And they might even say that to you, like, look, I'm giving you a good time. How can you complain about that? And you might think, yeah, that's right. And so you might be sucked into their game. But, of course, the inevitable always occurs, which is all this niceness does seem a little phony. And if you start to pay attention to details, you may start to see things that just don't seem to fit with the story. And you may even suspect that the person is phony. Well, if you dare to say, hey, I think you're phony, you'll be greeted with, again, oh, you're thinking of your exes who were evil. But eventually you get to the point where something comes up that you discover which confirms that something fishy is going on. Such as this person who says they're devoted to you and is not looking at anybody else. You find some piece of evidence that indicates they're actually chasing someone else. And if you pursue that and sneak around behind their back in this life cycle and you find some evidence, well, you go back to this creature and say what you found, you will be attacked. You will be told, how dare you spy on me? How dare you check up on me? And they have an excuse that's retarded to explain why what you think happened, but they sanitize it and make it sound phony, where you're already sure that something's fishy and that they're trying to undo your reality by saying, no, you've misunderstood. She says I asked her out for a date. I really was asking for her father's phone number so I could do some business with him, or something phony. But anyway, these little things seem to make repeat appearances where you eventually get to a point where you realize that you were actually right when you thought this person was too good to be true. And anytime you've tried to clarify, of course, you've been thrown off track. But eventually it gets to the point where certain things come up that you just cannot accept the phony excuses for because common sense tells you something's fishy. The more these develop, the creature starts to not be so friendly to you and may pull away somewhat and stop all their stuff, their giving and love bombing. Well, the person will treat all of your suspicions as if they're wrong and will continue the gift giving and the attention giving, knowing, of course, that they're kind of caught. But you'll notice if you confront them about obvious things, their face remains the same and they're like, oh no, that's a misunderstanding. And you think to yourself, well, certainly if he was caught or she was caught, they wouldn't act like that. So you think maybe you're wrong? Well, that's your gaslighting for you. But eventually it gets to the point where more and more things happen, and maybe a few even become confirmed that something horrifying happened, and there's no excuse that's going to make it better. When that happens, there'll be the usual excuse, and you'll be expected to accept that. So many times by this point, you've integrated your lives together despite the discoveries you've made, and yet you can't seem to let these discoveries go because, after all, you've already been through such things. And any time you suggest that's what's happening, you're always told, you're thinking of your ex again, which is a perfect cover for these creatures. But you'll notice that many times since your lives are integrated, it's not like you just disappear. It's kind of like the parts that they've repeated that seem stable stick with you, but that you still have these nagging doubts that something might be fishy going on. However, if you start to climb forward to say, hey, I noticed this too, I think it means that, you'll be chastised. You'll be told, oh, you're thinking too much about other people and exes. And you'll notice that all that love and devotion from the beginning, when anytime you had a problem, they're right there to fix it, all of a sudden you're on your own when you have a problem with something the person's done. And during this cycle, as it continues, there will be a few things that you still can't seem to get over because the facts speak for themselves, even though the person's giving you some retarded explanation excuse. The monster turns it into a circumstance where it's like you've got a problem. You keep suspecting others of evil that have no evil at all. And you need to get over this. And it's totally abusive because you're simply reacting to your environment and sensing things aren't the way they should be, but you're getting no assistance from the person doing it. Clue, you're in an abusive relationship. But it gets to a point where you uncover a horrifying thing, which no amount of excuses will make it okay. And you're thinking back to all the love bombing from the beginning when the person was like right there by your side, was going to be with you for no matter how long it took for you to get through this, but yet now you're finding this person guilty of doing the evil things that you were running from. You'll notice that something, let's just say that they've done, is so horrifying to you and you just can't get over it. So you might say, hey, I still can't get over the fact that after all that talk about all these things we didn't believe in was right and so on, you actually did this thing that was really bad. They will be like, oh, I told you why I did that. Why do you keep bringing that up? What's wrong with you? And they're attacking you, which is a red flag for you because they should be right there by your side as they were, if they really cared for you, trying to fix it, make it better. But instead, they're making an excuse and telling you, I told you 1,000,000 times why that happened. You're mistaken. And you're going to feel lonely and isolated because that's not the way it's supposed to be. And over time, you will basically be considered a conspiracy theorist who reads things into everything, even though it's basically your natural intuition telling you something's fishy. But these people will steer you off the track if they can, or they'll try. Eventually, when one of these horrifying things happens that you confirm, even though they have retarded excuses for, you will be like saying, look, I still can't believe you would do, because you're thinking the person's who they said they were, and of course, they're really not. So when you pursue it, they will push it aside with excuses. But then when you say, but wait a second, that excuse doesn't work, still, this horrible thing happened, and eventually, because what you're looking for is, you're looking for acknowledgement. You're looking for the person to realize that, oh dear, you're upset because this happened, and it shouldn't have happened based on all your prior talks of what's right and wrong as far as dating, and instead of that, you're getting excuses, and oh, would you drop that? Oh, you keep bringing that up. Well, that's not the way it's supposed to be handled, and because they continue brushing it aside, you are being baited to become a little more aggressive, and to say, look, what you did was horrible. I can't believe you would do A, B, and C, and D. After we talked about this, da, da, da. And then, rather than snapping them into place, and them weeping and crying and promising they'll never do it again, you'll be accused of, would you stop putting me down? Which is retarded! You're not putting anybody down. You are looking for an answer, but they will say that to you, and that's a red flag. They are phony and know that they're caught, and rather than admit it, coward, they are simply blaming you for misunderstanding. Which, that's one of the pet peeves I had, where I'm not putting anybody down. I'm telling it like it is and telling it how horrible it is, which the other person should be responding in the correct way to, such as, oh my goodness, that was really horrible. Oh dear, I can see it really upset you. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. No, you won't hear those words. So this is a typical cycle which deteriorates at the end, where basically you are just a crazy conspiracy theorist who sees craziness in everything that goes on, even though you are being played in one particular compartment while 10 others exist outside of you, and you're not allowed to know about those. Hopefully, these examples have woken you up if you're involved with such a person, because remember the love bombing part? When you could do no wrong, as long as you had nothing to complain about the person. But then once the person starts doing things that are not so great, all of a sudden your credibility's lost. You are imagining things. You are mistaken. Well, the fact is, you're not. Get rid of that monster now.
Look, what's your problem? So I dumped you. I didn't need you anymore. I don't know why you have to go around telling people that I did this and I did that. I simply just tell people that it didn't work out. Why do you have to tell them all these details? Why do you have to tell them that I found someone else behind your back? You know that's not true. He's just a friend. What is wrong with you? Why can't you just tell them it didn't work out like I tell people? That's all I say.
So what? What if I did tell a few people that you cheated on me and I couldn't take it? They don't need to know that it was me who did it, and you're not going to tell them either, and if you do, I will sue. I will take you to court, because you have no reason to smear my name. It's just not fair. It's just not right. Just tell them it didn't work out like I do to, well, at least to most people. I don't know where she heard that. I never told her that. She's lying to you. She probably wants you. You have to believe me.
So what? I told you my sister wanted to kill you. Well, I swear I didn't smear your name. She just doesn't like you. I didn't tell her anything. I swear.
Fine. I admit it. I'm a lesbian, and I left you for another woman's snatch. So get off of it and forget we ever met.